A very good afternoon to each and everyone gathered here. It was in 2009 when the government of Assam established the National Law University and Judicial Academy by way of enactment of the National Law School and Judicial Academy Assam Act 2009. The Litsoc is one of the committees of the Student Bar Council of NLU Assam. It handles the literary and debating related affairs of the university. The treasure trove hidden in books is known to us all. Everything from a lazy Sunday read to a fast paced murder mystery, novel is truly a something for everyone bag of goodies. So, with that in mind, the Literary and Debating Committee of NLU Assam is delighted to present a brand new interview series with renowned authors of India called By the Quill. The series is intended to host informative and engaging sessions on the process of writing books, a look into an author's mind, character framing, and questions about the author's novel. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed faculty member, Ms. Nishibrata Hazarika ma'am, to welcome the guest of honor. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mahi. Could you please confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. A very good evening to all. At the outset, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to everyone who has joined us to this beautiful evening to celebrate Passion for Literature by the Quill, its first edition. Before I move on, I would also like to extend my heartfelt regards and appreciation to all the people associated with the Literary and Debating Committee of NLUJAA Assam who made this evening a beautiful reality. On that note, I am profoundly delighted and at the same time honored to take this opportunity to introduce to our audience and welcome our esteemed guest of this literary evening, Mrs. Sai Swaroopa Iyer, an accomplished Indian writer and a best-selling author with several published works to her credit, especially in the mythological genre that stands as an anecdote to the quote, "Pain is mightier than the sword." It is an absolute honor for me, ma'am, to welcome you on behalf of the entire National Law University and Judicial Academy Assam fraternity. We are indeed very proud, and I feel it's a very rare privilege of having you with us today. To draw our audience's kind attention, it is noteworthy that ma'am has several celebrated work to her recognition, and the plot she crafts for her readers speak volumes about her literary art and wisdom she imparts. Her best notable works are Abhya, Avishi, Rukmani, Draupadi, and Mauri. Her novels are published by some of the leading publishing houses like the Bloomsbury publications, to name a few. Ma'am is also a former investment professional who holds an MBA degree and is an alumni to the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. As I was going through her profile yesterday, and you may also correct me if I'm wrong here, ma'am, it was really interesting to learn that apart from the literary wisdom she has in store for her readers, she also blogs on history, culture, Telugu poetry, and sometimes politics too. It is our pleasure to host you, ma'am, today, and we are very keen to hear from you, about you, your journey through which we really wish to learn more about an author's mind. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us your time today and to be able to share your thoughts with us. I once again welcome you to this beautiful literary evening, and we really appreciate your presence. Thank you so much, and over to you, Mahi, for the further deliberation of this event.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are indeed grateful to have Mrs. Sai Swaroopa Iyer, ma'am, as our first guest. Well, without any further ado, I would like the interviewer, Mr. Harsh Amrit, to take the dais and proceed with the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mahi. It's always a pleasure to be part of literary committees events and put together conversations that agitate our own progress. If we can dive right into business, Sai Swaroopaji. First of all, I'm a big fan of your work, and I've read your books. They are page turners, literally. I mean, the way the plot has been drafted is a page turner. So, when I first read Abhya, which was the first novel of yours which I read, the hand of storyteller was so sure. You could take me, I mean us, through the process of your writing and what inspired you to turn from an engineer, then an MBA grad from IIT, then working in corporate culture to an author. I mean, what was your journey like?
So, first of all, thanks a lot for your warm welcome. Nishibrataji, that was a very, very warm introduction by you. Very, very kind introduction. I'm so
Thank you so much,
grateful
ma'am.
for that. And Rachit, thanks a lot for putting it together, Rachit and Mahi and the whole team involved.
Thank you, ma'am.
It feels really, the delight, the joy is of a different level when we are interacting with younger minds because you guys hold the key to the future, and it feels all the more joyful to interact with younger minds who are interested to read in these times of social media, short videos. I don't know, as the attention span keeps getting shorter and shorter with time, it feels really good to meet youngsters who are interested in reading long form books. And please keep up that habit. I congratulate you for starting this whole series, and I hope you get bigger authors and many more viewers for this wonderful program. So, with that, yes, Harsh, coming to your question, what made me shift tracks from investment banking, engineering, tech, and investment banking to novelist that I am today? Yes. So I am a single daughter. I mean, I don't have siblings. My parents and my grandparents, they used to tell me stories from our epic past. I call it epic past, taking a line between mythology and history, because it's not mythology. It is there. It's somewhere in our past. It is a part of our conscience, even in the present and even for the future. And I don't want to call it just history, because I don't want to reduce Ramayana, Mahabharata to some date. And everybody would, big historians, they are, debating about the date. But my focus would be on these learnings that we can imbibe from these immortal texts. So I call it our epic past, which is a part and parcel of our life. Yes, I've been brought up with those stories, and I know this is a part of life which you won't get to read on my online profiles. But I grew up listening to these stories, and as I said, I'm a single child, and then cousins used to visit us during festivals, and whenever family reunions used to happen, I used to become the storyteller to my younger cousins. And it went on, before academics, career, and all that started dominating. Then our reunions became scarce. Each of us had our career in front of us to pursue. So, the storytelling sessions, those reunions, those small meetings and all became scarcer and scarcer. But I think the storyteller within me was still alive. She wanted a medium, and she wanted to keep on telling stories. Yes, that aside, there was one chance conversation I had with a Muslim friend of mine way back in high school, college, early college. And she asked me, yes, in grassroots, we have open conversations. It doesn't flare up like it does on social media. In small towns, back in small towns, we value friendships, we value relationships. I know that's like that for, all over India. So we are good friends. So she openly asked me, why do you worship Lord Krishna with so much of love? I mean, if had you been worshipping just for a formality, also I'll understand. But you guys have so much of love for Lord Krishna, and he has so many wives. Why does a man with so many wives appeal so much to all of you? And then I told her the story of Narakasura Vadha, which formed the crux of Abhya that you had read. So I told her the story of Narakasura Vadha, saying, this is, there was an Asura called Narakasura, and he had taken captive 16,000 women against their will. And Krishna killed him along with his wife Satyabhama. They went and killed him and rescued those women. But those women had nowhere to go, and Krishna wanted them to be a part of mainstream life, which is why he married them, and which is why he has so many wives. And this is one of those reasons which endears Krishna a lot, because he accepts everyone regardless of their past. Anybody who is ready to surrender to Krishna, he accepts them regardless of their background, their past, their guna, their anything. He is ready to accept, and which is why you feel one with Krishna. Any worshipper feels one with Krishna. Somehow the conversation stayed with me, because it was not just that Muslim girl who did not know. 2 years down the line, in a different college, a Hindu girl asked me the same question. So I just thought, we have so many stories which are not reaching my generation. I know your generation today is much more updated with a lot that is happening, and is much more interested to get back to our roots also. But then at that time I thought, okay, we are losing this knowledge and I have to do something about it. And I still wasn't clear what to do. But a story formed in my mind that was, the whole story of Narakasura Vadha itself, but from the perspective of a girl who existed in those times, from the perspective of a heroine who was one of those women rescued by Krishna. So even then, I did not think that I had a book inside me. I kept writing, and parallelly, yes, all whatever you quoted, the engineering, MBA, IT, investment banking, everything was going on. I was not trained in creative writing or language part of it, or the art part of it. So that was, most of it was self-taught. So I used to write. First, I began with a short story. Then I tore it up. I wasn't very happy. Then it didn't even occur to my mind to get it published. But then the story refused to leave, because it started building. It started building a life of its own. Then I started with my reading, because parallelly I used to read a lot of unabridged versions of Mahabharata, and the scholarly works on that published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and all. So every time I used to read a work on Mahabharata, I used to try and reconcile my story to that, as to, okay, this event could have happened. Okay, this could have happened before Rajasuya. This could have happened after the dice game. This could have happened during the war, or something like that. So then finally I realized that this is something big that is wanting to come out of me, and I need to respect that inspiration. So which is why it took form in the form of Abhya. This is my self-published version, published in back in 2015. This will be coming out in a newer form, launched by Bloomsbury's next month. So yes, I'm afraid I took a long time to.
So, well, that was indeed very nice to hear from you, ma'am. So, whenever you research for your work, and I'm especially talking about this genre, which
Yes.
you call it epic past, there is a dearth of proper materials available. And even those materials which we have hands on, there is a serious, I would say, scantiness of critical literature, or literature that offers alternate views. So how did you deal with this problem of research?
In fact, I would slightly disagree there, Harsh, because especially, of course, again, epic past is vast, but anything that is related to Mahabharata, the unabridged Mahabharata itself is a great source in terms of positioning the event. in terms of world building, in terms of studying the socio-political, the macro-political aspects of that story. Mahabharata itself is a great reference. And when I mean the Mahabharata, it's not just about that particular incident, whatever, whether you want to focus on the war or, or any event like Rajasuya or the Vanaparva or anything like that. But one reading of Mahabharata end to end, that opens up our mind because of not just the story, but very insightful conversations that happen between peoples. So Mahabharata itself is not just a story, right? It happens as a conversation between Janamejaya, who is the great grandson of Arjuna, and Vaishampayana, who is the disciple of Vedavyasa. Now, Janamejaya, doesn't he know the story of his own grandfather and great grandfathers? Seeks a total complete stranger to tell me, okay, your guru composed this story about my grandfather, so please tell me that. It sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, he'll have somebody in the family who told him the story, right? But the reason why he sought out a rishi like Vaishampayana is because of the knowledge that comes along with the story. It's not the what happened. So he wanted to know the whys, the hows, and how to avoid a similar situation, or how to replicate a better situation, or how to improve upon whatever happened, and what to keep in mind. So these are the conversations that enrich our own authority over the subject. So you come to know that things that I have come to know by reading the Mahabharata is that India was not a single civilization. It is a collection of different civilizations that we come to know through Arjuna's yatra. Right? Arjuna, he takes a self-exile because, he has broken a vow. So he takes a self-exile. There he gets married to Ulupi, and who comes from a Naga background. And we see strong signs of matriarchy there in Ulupi. And then he goes to Manipur, where he marries Chitrangada. Chitrangada, being the only daughter of her father, they follow this custom called Putrika, where she belongs to her father, not to her husband, and the son born to her will be the Yuvaraja of her father. So that is also somewhat like not totally matriarchy, but because she is the only daughter, her first duty stands towards her parents, right? And I know in today's world, many women face this conflict, and Mahabharata had it resolved then. Right, so these are the worldviews that open up when we read the Mahabharata itself. So yes, there is a lot of literature available when people want to study it with an open mind, and also there are scholarly works written and published by Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan comes to my mind, the older published works, 1940s, 50s, 60s. I think most of them will be available on archive.org if we know the names. So it's not even like we have to go till the publisher or a bookstore or something like that. Then Motilal Banarsi Das publications. Then there are a lot of books, and I also follow commentaries of various gurus, Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Shivananda. So each of those inputs, insights, it adds to our knowledge as well as the fulfilled view of the subject.
So, ma'am, you mentioned how there was multiple civilizations that were there in India back in those days. So, do you think that that this very idea, or the cultural imperialism which we have imported from the West, which assumes that there is only one truth, and which is at odds with the Indian saying that ekam sat, with Bahata Vipra Vadanti, is in conflict? Is in odd with the idea of cultural imperialism? And how do you deal with this idea of multiple truths in your work?
So yes, I mean, you said you have read Abhya, so you would come to know, the conflict that I have tried to portray in the story is exactly the conflict between a very zealous, overzealous, hegemonical culture versus harmonious but fragmented civilization. Right? So I think this one truth or one way, only way, or one path, or only path, or one truth, that gives a sense of, yes, there is one truth, but there's nothing exists beyond that. And whatever path we take, and whatever is the experience that we get and we progress, we will land up there. That is the belief of the Sanatana belief that they call it. And you can choose your ritual belief. Yes, you can choose a seva oriented belief, and believe that, okay, there is God in everybody, so I keep helping people and I reach God. That's right. And ritual discipline, that also works. Something like a yoga path where you are trying to be in sync with the nature, with the universe around you, that also works. So that way, yes, there is one destination, but probably a million paths depending upon our own experience, our own commitment, our own pace. Yes, so that, I think that's my core belief, which I would love to portray again and again in my books.
Indeed, ma'am. So, ma'am, one thing that is common in your novels is that they are centered around women characters. And also, one thing is that there is a lot of variation in your women characters. So, what led to you to, or I would put it as, what inspired you to bring such variation and variety in your characters? What was the entire idea?
So, firstly, thank you if you feel like each of my heroines are unique. That's my aim also. So, again, as I said, Mahabharata is also an epic that celebrates feminine in a very unapologetic manner. Each woman from the Mahabharata has her own unique stamp. It's not like one person, there's one lady with all these virtues and she's a role model for everyone. It's not like that, right? Coming right from the beginning, Shakuntala, she took a chance with Dushyanta and she pursued him. She trusted him, and even when he did not honor her, she pursued him, convinced him, and made her son the king, the next king. And we call ourselves Bharatiyas after Bharata, the son of Shakuntala. So even she is a kind of an inspiration. I am avoiding using role model because I believe all women as well as men, we can chart our own unique journeys and unapologetically be ourselves, as well as keep on improving. And those characters are inspiration for all of us. Savitri, she had her own journey. Kunti had her own journey. Gandhari had her own journey. Draupadi had her own very impressive journey. Right? So, yes, this is the kind of variety that I wanted to bring, especially when it came to depicting the feminine. As again, there is no one role model, or there's no one mold in which all women have to fit when, in order to be called, be respected, or otherwise they are not. It's not like that. Because we are born, each of us are born and brought up in different situations, and our own journey towards our dharma and our own journey along with dharma, it differs. It's unique for each. So celebrating that uniqueness while coexisting with other journeys, that is important to me, and I'm happy if that gets translated in my works also.
So, ma'am, the storytellers
Excuse me.
this power that they get readers' attention through their ideologies and move across smoothly through their storyline. So, how do you draw this line that when you have to stick to the epics or retell it or distort it or fictionalize some of the aspects?
Very interesting question, because I ask this to myself every time I am writing a new story, or even in between an existing story. I ask myself, where should I stop, or where should I? One thing, yes, I am benefiting from the world that Bhagwan Veda Vyasa, as well as Valmiki, all of our rishis have built. I am a beneficiary of that. So why should, what right do I have to put my name on the book and instead of their name? So something has to be me about it. Something has to be, it has to come from within me, so that, at least I get the right to put my name. But at the same time, the stories cannot diverge so much that I go against the whole narrative that has been sustaining our civilization for thousands of years. There is something in the Ramayana, there is something in the Mahabharata which has helped those narratives sustain, whereas you can see that something that was written, like say 50 years back, is not that popular today, because it is written, as you said, by writers who had their own ideology or agenda, or whatever. Let me not think malice, but still it was conditioned by their whatever they considered as important. So when a writer approaches it with his own or her own biases, right, that itself curtails the longevity of the story, which means that he or she is writing it in the light of something that has happened in his lifetime or her lifetime. So she's writing it as a response to that. And as the generations pass, the next generation comes, they cannot connect to that event. They cannot appreciate it as much as they appreciate the original. So I think that is how we decide the shelf life of our own stories, when we start taking too many liberties. But for the benefit of of any aspiring writers who are listening right now, or who would catch this later, I would say, do I have some time, Harsh, to tell a small story?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
in the Ramayana, there is a beautiful story about how Ganga descended from the heaven to earth. And the journey of Ganga is a very beautifully narrated, picturesquely narrated story in the Valmiki Ramayana. But here my takeaway is that Bhagiratha, who was the king in the Raghu Vamsha, he is the ancestor of Rama. He wanted his ancestors to be blessed by the waters of Ganga. That is the single point aim with which Bhagiratha prayed to Ganga. But Ganga had her own plans. She doesn't follow Bhagiratha just in that path that he did. She diverges, reconverges, takes her own path. But ultimately, she reaches where Bhagiratha wanted her to reach. So a poet's mind is like this river. We tend to go with the flow. We don't exactly adhere to the highway that Veda Vyasa has laid for us. That's like the highway, and we tend to take those countryside paths. But as long as we are running parallel to the highway, it's fine. It's only when you diverge too much that you can't reach back the highway. I think that is where we need to correct ourselves. This is just my personal opinion on how to balance between creativity and the source and avoid distortion.
That was such a nice explanation, ma'am. So, ma'am, if I get into the deeper philosophies of your novels, you approach into it in a very nuanced way. So, how did you work this in your mind, keeping that those conversations and characters were set in 5,000 years before, and you have to translate, or I would say, make those translation or reframe those translation in today's lingo. So, how did you do that? Was it difficult?
So, for one thing, whether fortunately or unfortunately, I think I get to hear my characters. So they are very, very talkative people. That's that may be a reflection of myself. I am also talkative, as you could see my responses. But yes, I tend to more than I know. Many writers tend to visualize the story, but I tend to hear the characters, listen to their emotions. So sound or some way of hearing their voices, that is my primary inspiration. Their dialogue, the dialogue is the primary build up of emotions, and character emotions is what help me anchor strongly in a story, and then story builds up. That is my process. So if you take say Rukmini, which came out just last year, for me she was this very courageous lady who stood up to everyone in her own family and chose to elope with Krishna. So I was trying to locate and build her character. It would be very feisty, it would be very courageous, and some to script a whole elopement when three armies of three countries are in your city. To elope with your lover in that situation needs a lot of strategic brain also. So I was trying to get that picture in my mind of somebody who's very sharp, very feisty, and very clear minded. And how will her emotions be? If she's angry also, it will be like really angry, and if she's in love also, it's going to be like you can feel her love, can feel her commitment. So I think those are the key emotions that would also reflect on my dialogues. So her dialogues would come with force and not exactly in a docile way. So, and coming to Draupadi, I would feel her as I see her as an empress. So I think her dialogues will be rooted in that correctness. It will be rooted. She doesn't have to exactly shout because she knows that she's right. And the whole of the luxury here is that Vedavyasa has given a lot of dialogue all through his Mahabharata. There's a lot of dialogue freedom given to each. I mean, of course, he has documented it, so we get to know the characters through their dialogue. And that's exactly what I try to follow. Though the scenes are scripted, are reimagined by me, I think it's Vedavyasa's voice that goes behind.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, one question that we have been getting since the very launch of, or the very launch of this program was that how to write for global audience. Because if we look at this genre, which you call epic past, the global audience might not be able to connect with the Indian stories and philosophies.
This is actually a myth that we have built, Harsh, because global audience, I know a handful of Western readers who read my stories, and I think it'll be we'll be doing them a great injustice when we just assume in the beginning that they won't be interested or they won't connect or anything, because I think even if the Anglosphere audience, mostly that is US, UK, Canada, and maybe parts of Australia, parts of Europe, they are exposed to a lot of, they are truly cosmopolitan countries where they have seen influx of so many races, so many countries, so many people that they are open-minded enough to receive the stories, but where there can be some obstacle is that the names and the language, where the Sanskrit that we feel very easy can be a bit heavy for them. Just like Western high fantasy goes too heavy on me when it comes to the names, because I find some names unpronounceable with when it comes to Game of Thrones or Wheel of Time or anything like there are some names which I'm not able to connect and put a face on. But of course, we can't complain. Being a writer, I need to read everything. So I think it's the same kind of this, which is minor glitch, but the actual problem is in having publishers with that reach, right? Of course, fortunately, my publisher is Bloomsbury, who has that reach to global audience. But yes, we need to build those publishing brands which can reach all those countries, who are open to read. Otherwise, they are very, very open and they can connect. And in fact, if I can narrate another anecdote, it's like it was in London, where there's this library. The municipal libraries are free and they're beautiful in London. I was there. I lived there for 3 years, and Abhya had just come out, and I went to the local library because I thought this is a predominantly Indian area, and probably some readers could pick some of the copies. And I was very happy to find Amish Tripathi's Immortals of Meluha there, and not just Amishji, Usha Narayanan, and there are at least 4 or 5 Indian authors, not other than the big names, whose books were available. And I was so happy. And then I met the librarian and said, see, I'm a new author. I've just self-published my book. Would you like to keep a couple of copies with you so that, then some Indians may like to take it? And then she said, I'm not supposed to accept free copies. Why don't you write to the council, our municipal council? They may place an order. And I was like, okay, I mean, at least if the librarian is an Indian, I thought, hopefully she would connect. And where am I going to connect to the council guy will be some, European or totally somebody who's totally disconnected to what. But then I just wrote to them saying, okay, this is the story, and, this is my book, and I self-published it. It's available on CreateSpace. And there was no reply for 2 days. I wasn't expecting it. But the third day, they replied saying, we placed an order for these many copies. So yes, that was so nice to hear. And yes, I think we just need to write more stories and find out ways to reach out to the audience there. Otherwise, audience is good.
Okay, ma'am, we would like to hear from you about your upcoming projects. Any more novels, any movies based on your novels?
So yes, coming to the movie, again, this is my second book, Avishi. It's about a queen from the Rig Veda. Again, this is one departure from my comfort zone of Mahabharata. This happens in the Rig Veda. She is the story is about Queen Vishpala. She's mentioned as Vishpala in Rig Veda. She loses her leg in a battle and is fitted with a prosthetic leg by Ashwini Kumaras. And this story also is the world's first mention of prosthesis. And surprisingly, I did not find the story of Vishpala from any Indian site, but due to some other research that I was doing on Google, I stumbled upon Vishpala's story in an Israeli medical journal that was focusing on prosthesis. And I was astounded and also kind of a little appalled, because we are not talking about the story as much as we should be talking about it. We have a woman warrior from older than Mahabharata times, and the recipient of first prosthetic limb. This is something that this is a story that really needs to reach a wider audience. And so I started working on building the Rigvedic society. There are democracies, there monarchies, and these are the times where even wedding or marriage itself is a nascent idea, and how to trade, everything would be so different, because in front of that, Mahabharata would seem so sophisticated and set in stone kind of a civilization. But here everything is nascent and open, and how would that world be? And this is my Avishi is my attempt to reconstruct the story of Vishpala, which got optioned by a production studio, and of course last 2 years of COVID delayed the whole process. Should be hearing, I hope to hear from them soon. So I hope this would be a fitting story for big screen. And as you said, taking Indian stories to global audience. The production person who had acquired the story, his first reaction was that this will be India's answer to Wonder Woman. So that's about the screen adaptation. Yes, my upcoming works. Yes, Abhya is set to be relaunched, and I'm also working this year. I guess it is non-fiction that will dominate my workspace. I'm working on this non-fiction comparison between Bhishma and Chanakya. There is a lot of knowledge commonalities between these two men. From Bhishma gives counsel to Yudhishthira after the war, before he becomes the king. There are a lot of stories, as well as anecdotes and sermons on dharma, on where dharma has to be followed, in a which way, where you can take a bit of liberty and house and all that. And most of that gets reiterated by Chanakya in his Arthashastra. So that's my study. That's my upcoming work. I also hope to work this year, if possible, on a non-fiction work on forgotten battles in historical India, especially in the southern countryside. I am just collecting material for that, because our history to us, the curricular history, if I may say, what we study academically, that has been dominated by a certain, I won't even say left wing, right wing and all. That is a very superficial way of looking at it. But it's a very Delhi-centric way. There's a lot of India that was there, that is there beyond Delhi. Of course, that's our capital. It is a dear city to all of us. But history of India cannot be looked at from that Delhi dominant view that our historians forced upon us. So in that process, we are forgetting a lot of subaltern heroes who have actually stood up for our civilization. And my attempt is to look at all these small time warriors who have held on to their forts, and who there would be small warriors, but they have overcome much more powerful invaders, and each of those victories needs to be celebrated. So I'm collecting material for that. So I hope to do it this year, if possible.
All the very best for your upcoming projects. So, ma'am, is there any piece of wisdom you would like to offer to those who wish to pursue career in writing?
Yes. So keep writing. Have a plan for more books. Don't stop just to perfect one book, and don't spend too much of time on that. Once you are done with a draft, seek opinion from an editor, from a freelance editor, from your friends, and always there is a saying that there is nothing called perfect, but there is only finished. So, plan your, because this advice is for people who are taking their career as writing. So, you need to think of yourself as an entrepreneur here, not just as an artist. Of course, the artist within you, he or she would love creating new stories, new characters, new situations, everything. But again, the entrepreneur in you has to plan your whole life, and if possible even create some employment due to that, by hiring probably editors or cover designers, or whatever that employment that you would generate would be a nice addition to your whole journey. So yes, plan say around 10-15 books for your whole journey, and maybe more. Never set a cap, and keep writing. It's you don't have to plan all the 15 books on a single day. Once you get an idea, start about it, keep writing, write every day. Have an open mind, follow your heart and follow your characters. That ensures that you have a story that is alive. Yes, keep reading, keep encouraging other authors. That's one unique and beautiful aspect of this literary atmosphere, because book is not the kind of commodity which is very limiting. My readers can also read other authors. So if I can recommend so many more authors to people who are interested in reading, and if they can also pay the favor back, and together we'll only be enriching the world around us. So yes, collaborate with other authors. Of course, keep yourself open to learning new skills, be it editing, be it screenwriting, which can take the story to a different platform. So keep on expanding your skills. All this is along the journey, not on day one. But yes, keep writing. You don't have to be trained in the field of literature exactly to start writing. You can totally irrespective and independent of your educational background, when you have a story within you, I think it's your duty as well as right to pursue that to completion.
So ma'am, if you permit, we can now open the floor for the questions.
Sure.
So if the audience has any question, they can feel free to fire away in the chat box.
Yeah, I see. Preeti? I see a raised hand by Preeti.
So Ms. Preeti Kumari, if you want to ask something, you can unmute.
Yeah, is she speaking? I am not able to hear.
I think there is some problem with the mic. Harsh, you can continue with the questions that were asked in the survey form.
Yeah, ma'am.
Or Anurag, are you having any question?
Ishani Chakrabarti has a question in the chat box. She is asking what about the genre of the content writing?
Content writing is like a service. So there it doesn't have the name. I mean, all of you are law students, right? Or is there a mix of?
Ma'am, most of us are law students.
Law students. So, I mean, if you are tech, in the world of technology, we differentiate between service and a product, right? And service, when say Infosys or TCS provides a service of writing a code for a client, that becomes the intellectual property of the client and not of Infi or TCS, unless it's a product. But Infi has a product called Finacle, which is branded as an Infosys product and sold ready-made to the clients. So books that we author are our intellectual property. So we have a basket of rights, not just sales, but like as you mentioned, film adaptation, that is a right that gets financially exploited. Then we have a whole bunch of basket of rights, translation, international distribution. So, I mean, with that entrepreneurial mindset, we look at books as a product which where the financial benefits, they are claimed over a period of time. So it makes sense to hold on to those rights. But content writing is service, like ghost writing, right? So the minute you write the content, you create the content and submit it to the client, you won't have rights on it. This doesn't mean that it's some kind of exploitation. I think there is a handsome fee that is paid by the client. And even I do content writing projects, keep the financial flow stable, for a stable financial flow, because royalties are not very reliable. There is a quarter where the sales are good, there is a quarter where the sales are bad. So the services are the area where you keep your income, you can keep your income stable. So content writing is that kind of service. It can be marketing, it can be blogging, it can be anything. But the minute you submit, you will not have rights on it. So that is the.
So I guess you have answered the question. And ma'am, Miss Vagisha Srivastav is asking,
How can we
self-publish a book?
Okay. So, Vagisha, we can self-publish in many formats. The most popular format, easiest to publish, is an e-book through Kindle Direct Publishing. For an Indian author writing for Indian audience, I would always recommend Kindle Direct Publishing of Amazon. I wish there were a homegrown Indian alternative to a self-publishing portal. I hope there will be a couple soon, but till then, I think it's KDP for us, because Amazon's platform itself is it goes very wide. It touches at least 17 countries which speak English. So we have that opportunity to seamlessly sell our e-books in all those countries. And coming to print, then that's where Amazon stops making financial sense, because the production is done in US. The costs are really prohibitive. So maybe some Notion Press or Pothi, that would be a better alternative when you want to publish a print book. So let's hope, even if you want to, there is also a way where you can publish, you can hire a printer. If you want more copies, like more than 1,000 copies, then you can hire these organizations like Repro or, some companies like that, which can print and distribute your book. But as somebody who has self-published 3 books that are taken over by a big publisher, I would say ebooks, stick to ebooks, because they are here to stay. You may lose some print audience, but the journey and the learning that you learn as a writer and as an entrepreneur is something precious. So you keep writing and publishing there. So I think the next question is from Pranav, right?
Pranav Gandhi. Yes, ma'am. He's asking, what are your recommendations towards steps to bring an idea or a story in your mind on paper? How should we approach it, ma'am?
So this is my process, Pranav. Feel free to critique it or make your own changes, because each writer, storyteller has their own process. So firstly, when an idea comes to me, because I work in this genre of epic past, historical past, I have the luxury of story already being set at a very large level, at a very high level, but try to form that very summary story of your character, of this the whole macro story from the perspective of your protagonist. And then I try to write the story in terms of events, like key 10, 15, 20 events that happen along the story, along the book, and then try to build a then that is the that's what I call as a first level plotting. Second level plotting, I try to expand each event into either a confrontation or a dialogue or something that happens during that event, right? And it's like writing a paragraph or two paragraphs for each chapter, and each of this becomes a chapter or two chapters depending upon how it develops. But there when we have this double level plot, right, the advantage is that I can write non-linearly, whichever is the scene that I want to, wherever is the inspiration strikes me. I don't have to write from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. I would write, say, chapter 4. Tomorrow I get inspiration for chapter 20. I can leave it here and go there and write. And that way the productivity is more. Of course, during this whole process, the plot keeps changing, story keeps changing, character keeps evolving. Those are all that happens. So plot is not sacrosanct as such. So that's my rough process. And once there is a draft is done, I take informed opinion from a beta reader, from a friend, from an editor, to see what are the weaknesses and how they can be addressed. And then we go to the publisher.
Indeed, a well-explained answer, ma'am. The next question is again from Ms. Vagisha Srivastav. She's asking, ma'am, do you think that retelling of epics can tweak its essence?
No, Vagisha, because ultimately the word of Vyasa, Valmiki, that has much more power than all our words put together. So they will stay regardless of whether we add or try to diminish it. But yes, retelling and reimagination of these sub stories from our past, they tend to put a spotlight, and that spotlight can be enriching, or sometimes it can distort the essence. That would be, I would say, for a writer, always be on the right side of Veda Vyasa. Then your books have longevity.
So, ma'am, we will just take two more questions because of dearth of time.
Oh.
So we have a question from Vijay Krishnan S. He's asking, from Abhya to Mauri, how did you end up picking your protagonists, your characters? Were they choices you made along the journey of your research, or were they voices that called out to you as you studied the epics?
Abhya was a voice that called out first, and everything else built as she was being developed. So Mauri was a discovery that I made while writing Abhya. Even Avishi, Vishpala, was a discovery that I made while writing Abhya, though she's not connected to the main story. Right? I think stories find their storytellers.
Indeed, ma'am. Ma'am, we will take the last question from Ms. Preeti Kumari. She was trying to put up a question since the very inception.
Yes, Preeti, go ahead.
Ms. Kumari, you can unmute and speak.
Harsh, she has put a question, in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, she has asked how to be neutral throughout the read. Like, I got prejudice sometimes and lose my interest.
Throughout the read. So is it while reading the source literature or reading the novels itself? So anyway, always, of course, we all come with our biases and prejudices. We are all conditioned by the life that we see around us. So it is natural to have certain disagreements or agreements. But if you are reading a source literature, not novels, yes, you are very free to disagree or stop reading, or because each novel, not every novel can cater to everybody. That is there. But when you are reading a source literature like Mahabharata, like any Purana, or even a historical document, we need to also be open to the fact that those people have faced a different situation and also have a long-term view of life than we have, which is why they are immortal in their stories, right? Those stories are immortal because they have seen much long-term, they have better term view of life. So I would say just read it. And even though you disagree, I disagree a lot when I am reading it. Why is this particular lady not getting angry with her husband? I mean, there's so much of wrong is happening, and why? How come she's keeping so much of cool and whatever? So all those emotions are something that even I feel while reading, but there is a reason why those stories are immortal. So it always pays to read them, and they will kick in whenever we need them to.
I guess you answered. You have satisfied the person who made this question. So as we come to the end of this session because of the dearth of time, it was indeed a delightful moment, a delightful conversation, especially for me because I have read your work and as a fan. And now I would like to invite Mr. Rachit Agarwal, Convener, Literary and Debating Committee, SPC, NLUJAA.
Thank you, Harsh. So proposing the vote of thanks, our most valued invited guest and dear folks, it is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Literary and Debating Committee, NLUJAA, and the entire organizing fraternity, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our guest, Mrs. Sai Swaroopa Iyer ji. Thank you, ma'am, for gracing us with your presence and gracing your important work and sharing us with an enlightening and thought-provoking session today. Further, we are also grateful to Nishibata Hazarika ma'am. Thank you for constantly supporting us and for your presence throughout the session. We'll also like to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. V.K. Ahuja sir, our respected Registrar Dr. Indranushi Das ma'am, and Deputy Registrar Dr. Nandrani Chaudhary ma'am. Thank you for always lending us the support that we need. And lastly, thanks to everyone who attended the session today. We will come up with other sessions shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was wonderful sharing my journey with you. I hope it is useful to you all, and I hope to see a lot of writers bloom from the institute. And thanks to everyone Rachit mentioned.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Harsh, we can call off the session now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nishibrat.